Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to a very cold and windy Moscow. There isn't any snow on the ground, however, it is freezing. And I thought I'd go back to my roots today and bring you a supermarket video. There's a brand new supermarket right behind me that opened very recently. I think you might find it interesting. Before we go inside, I thought I'd give you a little bit of background. Now, the actual store we want to go to is called City Express. Now, the actual wording of the store is in Russian Cyrillic. However, this might be interesting for a lot of people who are from Russia, because Food City is actually the name of a very large food market in the southwest of Moscow. It's responsible for about 30% of all of Russia's food that passes through there, that goes on to retail, shops, restaurants, cafes, and it's also open to the general public. It's the largest food market in all of Russia, and this is their very first supermarket or standalone shop that's selling goods from Food City. And it's in this brand new micro district here in Moscow. You can see all of the buildings around me here. It's a little bit quiet right now because I'm here in the middle of a working day in Moscow. So there's a few people passing by. There's some brand new apartments being built across the way. There's a children's playground right here in front of me. And the idea with Food City Express is they want to start building these close to home supermarkets and bring Food City closer to everybody, particularly people who live in apartment buildings. They're of course all over Russia, and this is their first foray into doing that, and it's actually combined with a small cafe inside as well. And I think this might be an interesting shop to give you an idea of what a Russian supermarket looks like, and a mini mart at the same time. A lot of supermarkets in Russia are heading towards this smaller format size and building more of them in more places throughout Russia. The plan for this company going forward is to open 600 locations in the next 2 years. And based on this first store, they can get an idea of what's good, what's bad, and go from there. To give you a bit of a better idea of where I am, I just came down to the river here, and this is the platform for the electric river tram, and the boat is just pulling off the dock now. They just opened a brand new bridge that I'm going to walk over to go to the metro station. As we see the electric river tram just leaving, they look so space age like. And I definitely recommend, if you want to watch another video on the channel, to check out the 2 different ones that I made on these river trams, because it's super interesting. And the area where we are here is called Nagatinsky Zaton. This is actually the schedule for the river trams, and this is the Nagatinsky backwater, as they like to call it. And you can see here these brand new apartments, and literally right on the edge of the river. There's a really nice walkway that they built here, then all these different buildings that wrap around. It is so cold with the wind coming off the river today. Beautiful day with the fact there's no snow on the ground, but the breeze is blowing. And there's still some people out and about and enjoying themselves. And where I'm standing here, it's just a couple of minutes walk to the store. I would love to come and do an apartment tour in one of these buildings. If anybody lives in these buildings and you're in Moscow, send me a message and I'll be on the next boat back here to come and do a tour of one of these brand new apartment blocks. Let's get on over to the shop. You can see on the sign on the top of the shop, the logo from Food City. And I think if you're from Moscow or Moscow region, more than likely at some point you've been to Food City, the very large market, and perhaps you're a little bit overwhelmed from going there because of how big it is. You can literally spend the whole day walking around that market. There is hundreds and hundreds of vendors in there and individual sellers. But for them to open this smaller, close to home store is something a little bit unique. And I think going forward in the next few years, this will become a more popular thing for a lot of the bigger chains to reduce the size of the shops and make more of them. Not everybody really wants to go to bigger hypermarkets. We want to go to smaller stores, find what we want, get in and get out. The actual store itself is open 7 days a week, and only on Sundays they have an extra hour in bed, so plenty of trading hours, 8 a.m. till 11 p.m. And also, it says you can come in if you've got your tail on, which basically means the shop is pet friendly. Now I'm curious of people who live around the world, not in Russia, can you bring pets into supermarkets? Let me know in the comments. If you're watching the channel for the first time and you're wondering who I am, I'm an Australian who lives here in Moscow, and the channel you're watching I built around doing supermarket tours and showing as many different types of supermarkets in Russia as I can. And whenever there's something new open, I want to go and see it. My background is in retail. Since I was 15 years old, I left high school, and I've worked in shops and retail all my life until creating this YouTube channel. So retail is in my blood, and I hope it comes across in these videos. Let's head on inside. Now, the one thing I do want to stress a lot is there won't be too many shoppers in the store. Because this is a working day in Moscow, and it's the middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday, people are at work, kids are at school, and not many people will be shopping during daytime hours. Traditionally, most people go shopping after work, particularly after 6 p.m. And the fact that it's open until 11 p.m. gives plenty of time for everyone to come shopping. Now, right in the front here, there's this mini cafe section. So you got a microwave, you can get yourself a coffee, help yourself to syrups, and then sit down and relax. Looks like they've also got free Wi-Fi, which is really nice. Now, in a lot of these new, smaller supermarkets, this is becoming more of a trend to come in and have a coffee and relax in the supermarket. Now, the shop itself isn't particularly big. It's about 100 square meters, so it's very compact. It is more of a convenience store in the traditional sense. However, in Russia, we call everything supermarkets, no matter what it looks like. And then this is the actual counter here, or cashier, and they also serve coffee and snacks and pastries. I've just noticed something quite interesting right here. There is some British chocolate. Whisper is a British brand of chocolate. Actually, you can also see Kit Kat as well. And Food City, if you've ever been there, is very well known for having a lot of imported products. Along with Russian branded products, there is a lot of products that are imported to Russia, and they pass through Food City at some point. It is very chilly outside, but there's a very small ice cream fridge right here. Has anybody had these chocolate sauces before? There's a Maltesers flavored one. We don't need Nutella anymore, do we? When you can get Bounty or Snickers flavor. And always close by the register there is the chocolate and snacks. Then have a look. Some cakes. So these are of course to take away, but you can sit and eat them right here in the cafe as well. Nestle waffle bars, Milka. So many choices of snacks and treats. There is also some ready food here as well. And these are designed either for you to eat right here in the cafe or take home. And in most cases, you just put them in the microwave. So you've got things like some soups and some potato and cutlets. There's even some breakfast items as well. Even some noodles there, some cakes. And look at that, they've even paired it with some drinks at the same time. What I'll do is I'll try to walk around the shop nice and slowly so you can take everything in and try to understand what they're doing here. And there is a lot of choices even in such a small shop. It's actually nice to come inside because today outside it is so cold, and where we are here we're very close to the Moscow River, so you get the wind chill off the river just coming by all these apartment buildings outside. And the real feel temperature is about -15 Celsius. So you don't even need snow on the ground, and it's still cold here. As I walk around, it might be interesting if you're not from Russia to let me know if you see any products that are perhaps well known in the country you're from. And also, of course, a lot of brands have claimed to have left Russia. But yeah, you can come into this sort of store and find everything more than available close to 3 years after some of the companies said they left Russia. And I've just noticed right here, they've got Starbucks Nespresso pods. There's also Twix and Mars ones also. We've got some nice coffees right there. Another ice cream fridge. And I think it might be interesting if you're watching this to also perhaps compare it to your local supermarket. Now, for me, personally, this would be considered a convenience store. However, in Russia, this smaller format supermarket is becoming incredibly popular, and large format supermarkets want to shrink down the size of the stores, put in their top 200 or 300 products, and then a lot of people who live very local to the shop would be able to come here and do some shopping and grab something. These sort of stores are designed for people who live in the immediate area and perhaps in the buildings literally where we are. And people won't drive here to this shop. Most people would come here just walking from the nearby buildings. And the point of the company wanting to build 600 of these across all of Russia will give them then the reach that there'll be a shop in every micro district, and everybody has access to products from Food City. All of the salty snacks, a lot of these people eat with beer, and you can see all the different choices of mostly imported beers. There's also Schweppes right there, Fanta, some Baskin and Robin drink. There's even things that I don't recognize in here. Now, if you ever go to Food City yourself and spend a little time there walking around, you'd be in shock with the amount of choices of products and the different brands. This is a well-known American brand, if I'm not mistaken, but the language perhaps looks French, German or Polish. If anyone can correct me, please do so. We can see Parmalat milk down there. And then there is actually some cereals here. Now, cereal isn't very popular in Russia, but you can find it in shops. And we come to the meat section. So the idea behind the concept of these shops is the full-line supermarket, but miniaturized. So there's food from every category and every brand as well. And there's one of everything that you would need for your daily shopping or daily life. And this would be somewhere my wife would be coming daily to buy something. Traditionally, a lot of people in Russia shop for food every day, or perhaps every second day, and don't go to do traditional weekly shopping. Just looking at the items in the frozen section, it's very interesting. They've got the Miratok brand right here, and this is the largest meat producer in Russia. They supply the meat to most fast food places, and they also have their own standalone supermarkets, but other supermarkets use their brand in the store as well. It's really interesting when you go to another branded store and see another company's brand in the shop. I think that makes sense. The eggs are on the bottom shelf. What's going on with that? They need to be a little bit higher up. And even different barbecue sauces. Again, if you see any brands that you might recognize, please let me know in the comments or timestamp it. If you're from Europe, a lot of brands might look familiar. Most of these baking products are very classic, everyday items. Kilo of sugar for $1. 2 kilos of flour is $1.50. So a lot of the staple items in the shop are very normally priced. Now, where are you in the world? Can you still get plastic straws? I should be selling these and exporting them from Russia. We can still get them, and there's no limitation. Lots of different chips. Of course, there's always new flavors of Lay's in every Russian supermarket you go to. The new flavor, their Tom Yum flavor, is very nice if you're into the soups. And despite the fact Pringles left Russia, these are the ones that I think are from Germany. Also Lay's, more than available as well. And there is also a everyday section. So you've got one of everything. And they're all very normal prices. They're not inflated because it's a convenience store, as a lot of people would put it. The thought that everybody thinks outside of Russia is you go to these convenience stores and the prices are higher, but they're really not. They're the same price, give or take a few rubles, compared to any large hypermarket. You want to do some baking, there's plenty of choices. And we come around then. So there's the hams and salami section. Mayonnaise. Again, we see the Miratok brand, these sausages with a bit of tomato sauce is very nice. I think there's some ham. Is it from Spain, perhaps? I think so. I like in Russia how they put the picture of the animal on the front, so you can definitely know what you're buying by the picture of the animal. Also some pastries. These are all very nice. They've got my favorite garlic bread right there as well, which I always enjoy. When I was working in supermarkets in Australia, I was forever moving around the baking products, and this Mission brand was very popular. We've got the everyday items. So there's actually some different instant noodles here as well. Pasta. They've even got the Barilla Holiday branded pasta. So there's absolutely anything you want. Now, if you go to any small supermarket in Russia, this will be exactly what you're seeing, just perhaps a different brand of shop. And I've just noticed here, they've got my favorite Maltesers. And these are actually German, because the ones that I've found in other shops are the same packaging and brand. But I think most people would recognize the products on the shelf. Plenty of Milka items, even Twix cookies, which is really nice as well. Of course, a lot of people will always comment that, Russell, you should go 2,000 kilometers from Moscow or 4,000 kilometers away and show me a supermarket And I've done that in different videos on the channel, and they look just like this. Now, the fact that I live in Moscow region myself, I still endeavor to try to find as many different types of supermarkets as I can, and I love putting them on the channel. And because my passion is retail and shops, it's interesting for me to come and see these places and the different things that are for sale. And I hope you're enjoying this type of video. They really have made use of every square inch of this place, and everywhere that's got shelves are full and stacked. Now, I'm curious of people who live around the world. Do you have this many choices of water? Now, this is a small shop, yet we've got around about 30 different types of water, not just one or two. We come to some of the other drinks and juices. Of course, the very well-known Dobro brand. Now, in Russia, this brand was very well known for the juices for many years, well before sanctions came into place and Coca-Cola leaving Russia, and then the Dobro Cola brand was born. However, you can see there is still 5 different types of Coca-Cola on the shelf. There is the Red Bull brand, Pepsi, and even all the way from Italy. We've got some products as well, along with some items from nearby neighboring countries of Russia. My favorite Chernogolovka is down there. Now, when most people walk into the shop, I think people tend to go towards the register to walk in, rather than this left-hand side, which is all the fruit and vegetables. But they've got all the classic things. They've even got the water sprayers going to keep everything looking nice and fresh. And if you ever go to Food City, now, just to see a few kilos of items is almost an insult when you go shopping there, because they have 40-foot containers of items. And it's just incredible. And this is the whole idea with this shop. They're replicating what Food City has, and the selection and assortment of items. And it's just an interesting place to go to. I really need to get back there and make a video to show everybody the crazy amount of products they've got in Food City, because I think it would make for such an interesting video just to see the choices. Now, we are in the middle of Mandarin season, being that we're in December and January for the holidays, and they've got a few different types. And have a look, minus 15 outside, and I can buy a pineapple in Russia. They've even got macadamia nuts. Now, they're not cheap in terms of prices, but we can walk in a shop like this in a micro district in Moscow and buy them right in the shop. I wanted to come and have a look at the beer section in the corner here, and there is quite a lot of choices. They just have beer, there's no spirits or hard alcohol. Some of the shops, when they first open, they haven't got the full license to trade different types of spirits. But I think perhaps this shop will just have beers. There's also plenty of ciders as well. And the gentleman doing a job of refilling some of the shelves. And then all of these different single-serve beers. Now, in Russia, it's very common that you buy beer by the can or by the bottle. Whereas in a lot of other countries, you're buying it by the box. So here you can just walk in and just get one. You don't have to buy 6 or 12. I think a lot of people will recognize some of the foreign brands from Italy, Mexico, I think is Japan, Thailand, plenty of German beers from Austria, and there is some Russian beers, thankfully. More than enough choices. I was just having a look at some of the teas on the shelf right in front of me, and there is some British writing on the different packaging. And then the one I've just had a look at a little bit closer here has packaged in Sri Lanka on the side. What's even more interesting is on the back is all the foreign languages that the product is translated into. So of course there's Russian and some other European languages, but there's no British flag. But they've got a Canadian flag for the English language, which is super interesting. Has anyone who's seen that before? That they've got the Canadian language translation on the box of tea right here. I wonder if I've got some Coca-Cola drinkers watching the channel. There's a limited edition Oreo flavored one, and just having a look on the back of the label, it says made in Great Britain. So there's even the British Coca-Cola here. The way you can always tell about imported products in Russia is this white label that's commonly on all imported products, where the ingredients are translated to Russian language, but made in GB right on the side. As I've been walking around, I keep seeing things that I didn't notice when I was walking around the first time. And one thing that I just noticed right here is Dubai chocolate. Now, where you are in the world, is this a thing? Now, I've actually had a chance to taste this at a friend's house recently because he's been living in Dubai and brought some to Moscow. Has anybody had some before? And what did they think? Is it all hype? Or is it really something that's unique and amazing? I'm very curious. At the entrance and exit of the shop, they've got a little section here where they've got some of the shopping baskets or shopping trolleys. The actual store itself does have central heating in here as well. Actually, when you walk in, it's nice and warm. And this table right here is quite interesting. Now, the idea is once you've grabbed your items, you can come over here and rest your bag down and put it in there. But they've got a couple of things on the counter which maybe people around the world haven't seen before or wonder why they're here. And this one on the right is for you to verify the weight of your fruits and vegetables. In case you think maybe the scales in the shop are wrong, you can actually verify the weight of what you've purchased. And I'll actually leave this one on the left up to everybody's commenting. And if you can tell me what this thing does, it'll be really interesting what the replies are in the comments of the video. So let me know what that thing does. As I walk out of Food City Express, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. And even myself coming here, it's really interesting to come and see new supermarkets in Russia and brand new chains of stores as well. And that was what this channel was built around. If you go back to see some of the original videos on the channel, I'm born into retail, basically. So that was the whole concept of the channel originally, was to document all the different types of supermarkets and food shops and shopping centers on the channel. And it's always nice to come to somewhere new that's literally starting out. The actual Food City brand in Russia is incredibly well known, and I think this shop will do very well once it branches out to a few more locations. The main idea is that these are close to home supermarkets. So people who live in these buildings around me here, there's about 15 different towers. This will become their local shop, and you won't have to go too much further to do your shopping. You can literally just pop down there, grab a couple of things. And I've said it many times before, people in Russia shop daily. And my wife sometimes might go twice a day to get something from the shop because it's not convenient to go half an hour away or 45 minutes away to one of the hypermarkets when you can shop locally in your building. And we have one in our building, a local brand shop that we can go to. So I hope this was an interesting video. It is bitterly cold outside. We are only a couple of minutes walk from the river where this shop is, and the wind is just blowing through these apartment buildings. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. I've actually got some items that I'm going to take home to my wife. She's going to love me for some of the choices I made. Post a comment. I've asked lots of questions. I've talked about lots of things that we saw in the shop. So perhaps let me know what you think of this style of close to home supermarket. If you'd like to follow me on Telegram, I post lots of things. There'll be a link coming up right here. And then I'll put a link to a new video on the other side, and you can watch something you haven't seen before on the channel. Okay, everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.